Morning and welcome to this special edition of the Newsfeed Talk Show. I'm your host, Ricky the Blue. Halloween is just around the corner and Blacksburg residents are gearing up for the spookiest holiday of the calendar year. Over the years, there's been a discussion about whether Halloween is more for kids or adults. Blacksburg residents have the best of both worlds, but not everyone agrees. Joining us in the studio, we have three guests with distinct perspectives on the issue. First, we have Jocelyn Rathbone, an EMT in the Blacksburg area. Lucy Arledge is a student at Virginia Tech, and Darius Redmond is also a Virginia Tech student. We'll go ahead and start, and this question's for Darius and Lucy. What did Halloween mean to you guys when you guys were children, and what does it mean to you now? Has it changed any?
Well, when I was a kid, it was particularly exciting. My neighborhood growing up, they kind of made a huge event of it. They had a party in our local park, and it was just very exciting to see all my friends and all their costumes, and it was definitely more of, it was a big celebration.
And what does it mean to you now? How's it changed now that you're, an adult?
It's still fun. I miss being able to trick or treat because free candy's awesome. But aside from that, it's still definitely a celebration, especially in college. People go downtown, people like to dress up and do costumes with their friends. So it's a different kind of celebration, but still exciting.
Darius, what about you?
Growing up, it was probably the best holiday besides Christmas for me and my friends growing up. You have competitions who can have the best costume, and of course the candy. So throughout the day in school, you just wait until school to let out so that you can go put on your costume and go around the neighborhood and gather candy.
Jocelyn, we'll go to you now. How have you seen Halloween change from when you were a child and now that you're an adult as well?
I'm not sure if it's because you look through the eyes of innocence as a kid, but as a kid, all you see are the lights on people's front steps, and it's all very innocent and fun. You don't even really see the older kids acting up, but now being in a college town and seeing this side of things, things are definitely still fun, but there's also a little bit of a dangerous aspect to it when you include things like alcohol and drugs that come around at this age.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we'll go ahead and start with you, Lucy. Is Halloween really worth it anymore for adults to celebrate with all the money you have to spend for it and, not having that innocence as a child? Do you still feel like it's a good holiday for adults to celebrate?
I think it can still be a fun holiday. I think dressing up and coming up with clever costumes is always fun, especially if you're doing it with a couple other people. And costumes don't necessarily have to be expensive. I know when I brainstorm my costume, it's what do I own and how little can I spend to do something mildly creative. So yeah.
Darius?
I think people, as they get older, they put more thought into their costumes. So as a child, you may just dress up as Spider-Man, for example. But here at college, someone may, go overboard and try to be something that a kid just can't buy from one place. So putting different items together to come up with the ultimate costume.
Jocelyn?
Yeah, I definitely think it's evolved from trick-or-treating to more partying, more centralized parties, and I appreciate that now at this age. So that's something that I would rather trend towards as a party with all my friends.
How much are you guys willing to spend on a costume nowadays? Obviously they've kind of gone up, but Lucy, how much is too much for you to go ahead I'm not going to go ahead and buy that?
Probably $15, $20 max. There's a lot you can make and kind of compensate for things that you could buy online that are more expensive. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the fun part, at least for me, is getting to make something.
All right, Darius?
I'm willing to spend $0. For the last 5 years, I've been a football player for Halloween. I just don't feel like spending money on a costume is worth it at this point in my life. So I just dress up as a football player.
All right, well, reporters Davis Gilbert and Chris Barnhart took to the streets to ask the Virginia Tech community for their opinion on this evolving holiday.
We don't really worry about candy as much anymore, but it's still time to have fun, dress up, go out, look stupid, we'll put work into a costume. We have a group costume going, so we're rehearsing for it and getting prepared for it. So, we still care about it.
Well, kids all about candy. Now in college, it's about partying, having fun. I guess when I was a kid, I went trick-or-treating, and now I don't anymore. Now it's more about finding clever costumes and going out with my friends.
It's a tough question because I'm from Saudi Arabia and we do not do Halloween. So it's going to be something new. I don't know how it's going to be though.
I mean, to be honest, I think it was a lot more fun when I was a kid just because, you know, it's all the mysteriousness and, you know, you're a kid, so the world seems like such a bigger place.
Now it's more about like partying, not as much trick-or-treating.
Well, I don't go trick-or-treating anymore. I kind of miss it, but it's also fun because now it's more kind of party-oriented, just having a good time.
I kind of just go out, hang out with friends. It's not so much about, like, Halloween is extended from like one night to like 4 or 5.
I'd say Halloween has party culture. I mean, it's fun, so I mean, there's that, but you don't have to be a part of it. You know, there's plenty of people who just, you know, want to dress up and, you know, go out to eat or go trick-or-treating or whatever, you know, and you don't have to rage to have a good time on Halloween.
I think it depends, like, who you're surrounding yourself with, because certain groups definitely, I think it's more pressured to do that.
That's basically all it is. People go out. It's just an excuse to, you know, dress up as something and go crazy. But, you know, we have a lot of those weekends. I mean, think about the St. Patrick's Day or basically any holidays, use an excuse to, you know, party a lot.
Cool. It's going to be something big, I guess. Like I've heard fraternities have like really big parties with 400, 300 students and stuff.
Yeah. I think it lost its cultural value, but it's still fun if you make it fun.
Yeah, I think so, more especially for females. It's kind of like a stigma to like dress a certain way for Halloween.
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I mean, because most people enjoy sex.
I think it depends on the person. I think a lot of girls do think they have to dress in more sexual ways, but I think it just depends on what you want to do. I know a lot of people that dress like ridiculously and not sexually at all, so.
No way.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because like girls nowadays, all they want to do is like dress up in like sexy costumes. Like that's what it's all about. And it hasn't necessarily become about like the whole Halloween experience, but more like just getting a chance to like dress up, like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, anyone can do that any day they want, really, but it does give, it's kind of like a more like free opportunity for them to do it, and I don't see it as a bad thing, really.
When you're in college, I think a lot more things are sexualized. So, but it's also what you make it. So you can be it's however comfortable you are. Especially like if you're walking around with a lot of little kids, you definitely cannot be wearing heels and little tights and little dresses. So that's a little inappropriate.
Stay tuned to hear what our panelists think after the break.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to this special edition of the Newsfeed. We've been discussing the evolution of Halloween with our guests. First, we have Jocelyn Rathbone, an EMT in the Blacksburg area. We have Lucy Arledge, a student at Virginia Tech. And we also have Darius Redmond, who is also a Virginia Tech student. All right, now let's start to talk about, a subject that is, kind of noticed amongst young people, and that's the sexualization of Halloween. How have you guys noticed it? And, Lucy, how have you seen costumes change, in these last few years?
Oh, they have a lot less material. I think it's interesting. To each his own. Whatever people prefer. I usually go into Halloween with the attitude that it's going to be cold, and like what can I be that will like allow me to wear like long sleeves and pants.
Do you think that costumes have become more sexualized amongst, young people and teenagers?
Definitely. I think for a lot of kids, like in adolescence, it's a way to kind of attract attention, and I think they may not realize kind of the adverse effects of that and kind of maybe the negative attention it can bring, but it's definitely changed a lot since we were kids.
Darius, how have you seen costumes change since you were a kid?
Since I was a kid, costumes nowadays have less clothes, as she said. Like, not just to pick on women, but women may wear costumes that show everything basically, like basically just a bra and panties, if I could say that on TV. And men as well, they won't just come out in some drawers, but they may try to show a lot of their body as well, for attention, like she said.
Jocelyn, how have you seen costume change, and do you think that they've become more sexualized as we've gone through time?
Oh, absolutely, and definitely for women. Like he said, I haven't seen guys come out in their underwear as much as women really do, and I personally have felt the pressure of, I want to stay warm, but I also feel the pressure to show a little bit more skin for this holiday because that is where the trend has brought us.
As an EMT, through your experiences, how have you seen, the sexualization of costumes from your, working?
Well, I will say that the Halloween weekend is definitely a little bit more interesting because not only do we have our regular alcohol-related calls, but these people are now dressed up in costumes that are pretty exposing and get a little bit out of control when alcohol is added to the mixture. So it definitely plays a part.
Yeah. Lucy, what's like the most outlandish costume you've ever seen that you just think that can't be in public?
I can't bring one to mind right now, but I think people take the cat costume and try and strip it down to as little as possible, and that usually gets pretty outrageous.
Darius, what about you?
I would have to say when females try to dress as celebrities, like female artists, for example, like Nicki Minaj, they make them outside basically naked. So I would have to say that.
Jocelyn, what about you? In your experiences as an EMT, what have you seen that just kind of makes you cringe almost?
I think a little bit of the more obscure costumes that they then turn a little bit more scandalous. Like I once saw a sriracha bottle, someone dressed up as a sriracha bottle, but it was not very concealing, so I was surprised by that choice.
Lucy, do you think that there are any benefits to this? And what do you think are the effects of the sexualization of these costumes on children and on society as a whole?
Well, as Jocelyn said earlier, little kids are pretty sheltered from what college kids and our age group tends to kind of gear towards for Halloween. And I think it's definitely a phase. I think as we get a little older, kind of the pressure and the expectation that our Halloween costumes have very little material kind of fades out, and you become a little more mature and adult, and you kind of figure out that that's not getting that kind of attention. It's not necessarily beneficial in any way.
Darius, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with her. I feel like it's not beneficial. And for young kids, nowadays, a lot of young kids have social media, and people post their costumes on their social media, and you never know who's actually watching. So if you're 21 and you're posting a half-naked picture, someone 8 years old, 9 years old, they may think that it's okay to do so.
Jocelyn, what about you? What kind of effects do you think that the sexualization of these costumes have had on children and how they're being raised, and society as a whole, and how we treat sexuality in general?
I will say I babysit a lot on the side of being a student, and I've definitely seen just in the culture and especially the music, kids are just a little bit more okay with the sexualization of everything, and they're just more aware of what's going on in the world. And I just worry that that will continue to trickle down to younger and younger kids, and I don't think that's necessarily beneficial to their view of the world, because I don't think that's really reality.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's something to go and be concerned about. And as people age and their costumes change, the ways they celebrate Halloween also change. From candy bars to Jell-O shots, we'll talk to our panelists about the party culture of Halloween after the break.
you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Welcome back to this special edition talk show of the Newsfeed. For our final topic of discussion today is the party culture associated with Halloween. Darius, Lucy, what do your friends usually do on Halloween? Are they going to all these parties that people hear about?
Yeah, I know a number of people who are like throwing parties as like an alternative to going downtown. I think, there are definitely people who take it a little far and go a little crazy because Halloween and just any sort, it's just an excuse to get like kind of rip-roaring drunk. But I know plenty of people who also just see it as another weekend downtown to like hang out with friends, and they value, I think, the idea of like hanging out with friends and the company as opposed to like getting crazy.
Darius, are you seeing kind of the same trend with your friends?
Yeah, I think that Halloween is one of those holidays where people just think that it's okay to just get really, really drunk. And of course, like, people go to the Halloween parties probably to get drunk and then go downtown, probably to drink more. So it's just a drinking day, basically.
Jocelyn, are you seeing kind of the same trends with your friend group? Is it just like become a party day almost?
Absolutely, and not just a party day, but a party weekend, and sometimes extends a little bit farther than that. They like to draw it out as much as they can.
Back to you, Lucy. How prevalent is alcohol amongst college students when it comes to Halloween? Is it really kind of an isolated incident, or is it something more, kind of prevalent and kind of an issue?
I think it can definitely be an issue. I'd say it's pretty highly prevalent. If kids can't go downtown, they figure out ways to throw house parties, and it's, drinking can be fun. It can also be very dangerous. And I think people who kind of take it a little too far kind of run the risk of running into trouble.
Darius, are you seeing kind of the same, alcohol as like the main thing when it comes to Halloween, and that's really all everyone cares about?
For the most part, some people just actually want to, have the best costume and enjoy themselves. But we're in college, so a lot of people drink and they feel as though if they're drunk, then they'll really enjoy themselves.
Yeah. So, Jocelyn, as an EMT, how many alcohol-related incidents on average do EMTs have to respond to on the night of Halloween? And is there more of a risk of drinking on Halloween than any other night?
Oh, absolutely. I would say last year, I believe the number on the middle of that weekend, of the Halloween weekend, we ran 13 calls that night for alcohol-related incidents, whereas normally on a weekend it's maybe 3. And we as EMTs really like to say, oh, we're going to have a lot of calls because it's a football weekend or whatever, but Halloween weekend is the actual weekend where we know that these alcohol-related incidents are going to show up.
Are these calls serious? Are they, cases of students having way too much and where they're, almost in a threatening situation? Or is it just students just having slightly a little bit too much and just being a little belligerent?
We definitely see a little bit of both, but I think the ones that I remember are the more serious ones, and it can lead to people stopping breathing and different things like that, which can get serious very quickly. So we definitely see a mixture, but the ones you remember are the serious ones.
Definitely. So, Lucy, how has this party culture of Halloween changed the holiday as a whole, and how has it kind of changed your view on how you celebrate it, or if you even how much effort you put into it?
Well, I kind of see Halloween as sort of a fun time to get a lot of like my friends together and hang out. So it's definitely an excuse to like get myself like out of the apartment, out of studio, and like downtown having fun. But beyond that, it's not kind of like an end all be all. I like try and remember the night.
Darius, how are you seeing this party culture affect your view of Halloween?
Well, being in college is definitely different than, growing up, but it's definitely a party culture. Like, people just look for Halloween just to party. But I feel like if you're not in college, then it's the, traditional Halloween, dress up and go around and get candy.
Jocelyn, are you seeing kind of the same thing, and where is party, culture kind of changed the entire meaning of Halloween, or is it just kind of a segment group of the population?
I think for for our college area, it's definitely changed the meaning. Like Darius said, there's a few people who really keep it pure and like to stick to having a good costume, but overall I think it's definitely changed as a culture.
Darius, do you think that these changes, this party culture, is kind of something that we're seeing as society affecting Halloween as a whole? This party culture and is more so from society and it's kind of, moving into Halloween?
Yeah, I agree. I think that society is changing the way we're looking forward to, celebrating Halloween. Like social media, celebrities, like we do what we see. So if we're seeing people like half naked and just getting really drunk, then we're going to do that. So definitely agree.
Lucy?
Well, I think Darius is right. We kind of see what celebrities are doing, or we see people posting videos on like Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and that kind of sets the bar and the expectation of what we think we should be doing. And I think some people will see that and kind of try and one-up it, and how can I do Halloween better than this person or this celebrity? So I think it's definitely changed the game, but I think Halloween and its kind of over-sexualization kind of party kind of attitude is, for us right now in college, is definitely somewhat of a phase. I think you sort of grow into it and you kind of grow out of it as you get older.
Do you think that that's not just for kind of youth, and do you think that that's kind of going to be how this is, and that eventually party culture won't be a big part of Halloween?
I don't know. I'd say that it's Halloween and other holidays are probably bigger party kind of going, circumstances than, a traditional weekend. But I think it's for the most part always sort of been like this, and maybe it's exacerbated because of social media and kind of the amount of information we can receive about what other people are doing. But aside from that, I think it's something that's always been and probably to some extent always will be.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the fact that social media has really affected this and kind of changed the way people are influenced by others. Jocelyn, do you think that social media has kind of contributed to this growth of this party culture amongst youth?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, before these things might have been happening, but the younger generation just wasn't seeing them, so they weren't pressured to act in the same way and to copy that, and it's definitely had that trickle-down effect from the celebrities, like they were saying.
Darius, do you think that this party culture, what kind of negative impacts has it had on the holiday as a whole, or the holiday and the society as a whole?
Well, I think that this is only in college. Like, I feel like when you're out of college, you start your family, and you're really an adult, so you're not into like really just thinking about the holidays, getting drunk and partying, things like that.
Lucy?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's definitely somewhat of like a phase. I think maybe in your 20s you still go out and hang out with friends and drink and whatnot, but I think as you get older, you start to prioritize you just prioritize things differently, and getting like rip-roaring drunk on a weekend in a crazy costume isn't necessarily at like the top of your list.
It seems like Halloween has gotten such a kind of a negative reputation that we've seen some elementary schools have started banning Halloween celebrations in the schools. Darius, do you think that that's kind of an overreaction?
Yeah, I definitely think that's an overreaction, because a lot of kids look forward to Halloween, just for the candy. Like, I know I was just looking forward to the candy, That's like the only day of the year you can just eat as much candy as possible. So I definitely think that's an overreaction, and they're taking joy away from kids.
Lucy, do you think that, this decision by schools is just way out of line?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it being unfair for like the majority of the kids who really do want to just like dress up in their favorite like Disney costume and eat candy with friends. But there are probably, circumstances where kids see something online and try and reenact it in school, and that kind of behavior is not appropriate. So,
Jocelyn?
I agree. There's definitely, I think that overall is a generalized overreaction, because I think, like I said, kids' intentions are still pure at that age. And I think it's just up to the administrators and parents to try and limit their social media viewing, so they don't see those older people acting that way, and they don't try to interact and start that a little bit too early.
Jocelyn, as an EMT, what kind of advice do you have for students that may be going out this Halloween and, just to kind of help them stay safe?
I would say be aware of your drinks always, the classic advice, hand over your drink so nobody can mix anything with it. Just be conscientious of what your limits are because you don't know what you're going to think you're capable of when you get that drunk, and it can lead to some serious things. So, and then also look out for your friends. Don't leave them behind at a party if you came with them. Make sure they get home safe as well.
Definitely. Lucy, and Darius, for you as well, do you guys feel safe as a person that celebrates Halloween anymore? Do you think that this kind of party culture has made it kind of dangerous?
I think it definitely can be dangerous, but I think, like Jocelyn said, being like aware of who is around you and just how many drinks you've had and where your drink has been, not setting it down somewhere and like coming back and picking it up. And I mean, it can be dangerous, but it can also be safe, and it can also be like a fun time with friends.
Darius, do you think that people have any reason to not feel safe during Halloween?
Not really. Like she said, it just really depends on who you're around. But for the most part, I believe that Halloween is a fun celebration.
Would you guys have any advice for students that are going out and having a little bit of fun this week?
I think to what Jocelyn said, just being aware of like your surroundings and who you're with, and kind of having like a buddy is always a smart idea.
Darius?
Everyone, have fun. You're only in college for a certain amount of time, but just be mature when you're out there having fun. That's all.
Definitely. All right, so now we're going to try and lighten up the subject here as we get close to the end of the show. Lucy, what's been your favorite costume that you've ever worn?
Like in college or just in life?
As a general.
Well, I went 2 years ago as Lucy Van Pelt from the Peanuts, and I had a couple of friends who were like Charlie Brown and Snoopy and a couple other characters. It was a creative group costume, and I didn't have to put a whole lot of effort into it.
Darius?
I would have to say the Hulk. I was the Hulk when I was maybe 6 years old, and I just felt like, everyone was beneath me. I was the man. So I would have to say that was my favorite costume.
Jocelyn?
When I was a lot younger, my mom dressed me up as a deviled egg with like egg costume with little devil horns and a pitchfork, which I was embarrassed of now, but I think it was pretty clever of her then.
I think for me, my favorite was one year I was Batman. And for me, Batman was like my childhood. That was like the coolest thing ever. And I dressed up as Batman, and I thought I was the coolest kid on the block, and I got a lot of candy, so I thought it was successful. But that'll wrap up this Newsfeed talk show. If you have a story idea or even a talk show idea for the Newsfeed, let us know. Send us an email at thenewsfeednrv@gmail.com. And as always, you can connect with the Newsfeed on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. I'm Ricky the Blue. For Darius, Lucy, and Jocelyn, thanks for watching.